In a quiet countryside town where fields stretched endlessly under a pale sunset, there stood an old barn that everyone in the community had long forgotten. Its wooden planks were weather-beaten, its roof sagged as though it carried decades of secrets, and vines had crawled up its sides like nature's attempt to erase it from memory. Locals said the barn hadn't been touched for years, not since the previous owner mysteriously disappeared one winter night. To most, it was just an abandoned shell, but to Officer Daniels and his trusted 9 partner Zeus, it was the center of a troubling investigation. Neighbors had reported strange lights flickering inside at night and low, eerie noises echoing across the fields, leaving many too afraid to walk past after dark. Daniels wasn't one to chase rumors, but Zeus, with his unmatched instincts, had already been restless ever since they drove past the place. Something about that barn called to him, and Daniels knew better than to ignore his partner's unease. The night they decided to check it out, the moonlight cast long shadows across the barn's path, making the grass sway like dark waves in a storm. Daniels tightened his grip on the flashlight while Zeus's nose twitched in the air, picking up scents invisible to the human world. They pushed open the heavy barn door, its creaks screaming into the silence of the night, and for a moment dust danced in the thin beams of light. The place looked abandoned, filled only with broken tools, collapsed hay bales, and rusting equipment. Daniels almost scoffed, thinking it was nothing more than a wild goose chase, until Zeus growled low in his throat. That sound wasn't one he made unless danger lurked close. His body stiffened, his ears sharp, his tail rigid with alertness. Daniels swept his flashlight across the wooden floorboards, but nothing seemed unusual. Still, he knew from experience that if Zeus said something was there, then something was there, hidden and waiting to be found. Zeus moved cautiously, each paw pressing softly against the dusty ground, his head lowered as he sniffed with intensity. Daniels followed, his heartbeat loud in his ears, the silence broken only by the occasional rustle of rodents disturbed from their hiding places. Then Zeus stopped abruptly near a stack of old hay bales in the corner, pawing aggressively at the ground. Daniels frowned, shining his flashlight where Zeus scratched. The floorboards there looked uneven, as if someone had tampered with them, and the scent that wafted up made Zeus whine in a way that made Daniel's skin crawl. Something was buried beneath. He knelt down, brushing away the dirt and hay, until he noticed claw marks on the wood, as if someone had tried desperately to claw their way out from underneath. Daniels' breath hitched. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just an abandoned barn, it had been used as a prison. He pried open the loosened planks and a wave of cold, stale air rushed out. Zeus barked furiously now, circling the spot as though demanding Daniels hurry. When the officer finally managed to tear enough boards away, a dark cavity yawned beneath the barn, revealing what looked like a hidden cellar. The smell was unbearable, thick with decay and dampness, forcing Daniels to cover his mouth with his sleeve. His flashlight beam trembled as it pierced the darkness, and what it revealed nearly made him drop it altogether. There were chains. Heavy rusted chains anchored into the ground, lying in tangled heaps as though they'd once held something, or someone, captive. And scattered across the dirt floor were torn scraps of clothing, children's shoes so small that Daniel's throat tightened at the sight. He stumbled back, his heart pounding in horror. This wasn't just evidence of a crime. This was the graveyard of nightmares. Zeus whined again, his body pressing protectively against Daniel's as though trying to shield him from the weight of what they had uncovered. Yet the dog's tail flicked with determination, his eyes locked on something further inside the cellar that the flashlight hadn't reached yet. Summoning his courage, Daniels climbed carefully down, his boots sinking into the damp earth. The cellar stretched farther than he had expected, almost like a tunnel carved with purpose. His light flickered across the walls, revealing scratch marks, desperate messages, scrawled into the wood by unknown hands. Some were illegible, others were clear enough to freeze his blood. "Well, please help me. He's coming back. Tell my family I love them." The messages were layered, some old, some fresh proof that this place had been used over and over again. Daniel staggered, bile rising in his throat. This barn wasn't empty. It had been a cage, and someone had made sure its victims were never heard. Zeus barked again, louder this time, pulling Daniels deeper into the cellar. His paws skidded on the dirt as he lunged toward a mound in the corner. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than piled earth and debris, but when Daniel's flashlight landed on it, his entire body went cold. A pale skeletal hand protruded from the mound, half buried in soil. Unable to breathe, his mind racing with questions. How many victims were hidden here? How long had this horror been festering beneath their noses? Zeus whined, pawing at the dirt with frantic urgency, and Daniels dropped to his knees, helping him dig. The earth was damp and heavy, but together, man and dog unearthed what no one had dared imagine. As the mound gave way, more bones appeared, remnants of lives stolen, stories silenced too soon. But among the skeletal remains, Daniel spotted something else, something chillingly recent. A jacket, not yet decayed, its fabric torn but recognizable. It was the same jacket a missing teenager had been reported wearing just weeks ago. Daniel's hands trembled as he pulled it free, his heart breaking at the thought that they might be too late. He looked at Zeus, who lowered his head and let out a mournful whine as though he too understood the weight of their discovery. But then Zeus's ears perked up, his nose twitching with renewed urgency. He wasn't just mourning, he had caught a scent, fresh and alive. Daniels blinked, hope igniting within him. Could it be possible? Could someone still be down here, hidden beyond the bones and darkness? He followed Zeus as the dog pulled him toward the farthest wall of the cellar, where the wood seemed newer, recently reinforced. Zeus scratched furiously, barking, his claws ripping at the boards. Daniels pressed his ear against the wood, holding his breath, and that's when he heard it. A faint, fragile sound. A cry. Someone was alive. The officer's heart slammed in his chest. He shouted for help through his radio, his voice urgent and desperate, while Zeus continued to claw at the boards. The faint cry grew louder, more desperate, a plea that pierced through the suffocating weight of death surrounding them. Daniels worked with everything he had, pulling, tearing, kicking at the wood until it finally gave way, splintering into pieces, and there behind the wall, crouched in the darkness, was a girl. Her face was pale, streaked with tears and dirt, but her eyes widened with relief at the sight of Zeus and Daniels. She was alive, trembling but alive, and in that moment the barn's silence was shattered not by horror, but by the fragile sound of hope reborn. 10-9-23 A Mother. The quiet town had grown used to peaceful nights where the streets slept under soft streetlights and only the sound of crickets filled the silence. But that evening was different. A 9-unit, a loyal German shepherd named Rex wouldn't stop barking at a parked old car near an abandoned warehouse. His handler tugged at his leash, trying to calm him, but the dog's sharp growls grew louder, his eyes locked on the trunk. Many took out their phones to record the moment, knowing it was something they would never forget. Stories of heroes are told every day, but to witness one unfold in real life was something entirely different. And just like that, the boys' rescue became more than just a police report. It became a reminder of loyalty, instinct, and the power of animals who dedicate their lives to protecting us. As you watch this incredible story, remember one thing: brave heroes like Rex deserve to be celebrated. So don't forget to subscribe to stay with us for more real stories of courage, and like this if you believe that sometimes a dog's heart can see what human eyes cannot. 10-9-24 Mother. As officers questioned the frightened boy, his voice finally cracked through the tears. He whispered about a man who had taken him, someone he didn't know, someone who forced him into the trunk and left him in the dark. The boy's words shook the officers to their core. This wasn't just a case of abandonment. It was something darker, something sinister. Wait. The trunk had almost become his coffin if Rex hadn't insisted on uncovering the truth. Every officer there silently thanked the heavens for the barking that refused to be ignored. Detectives soon arrived, treating the scene like the beginning of a larger investigation. The car was traced back to a stolen vehicle reported only days before, but the driver was nowhere to be found. Whoever had placed the boy inside had vanished, leaving only chilling questions behind. The community gathered closer, their faces pale with shock. For them, this was no longer a story from the news. It was happening right outside their homes. Fear and relief mixed together in the night air. Rex, however, remained calm, his eyes sharp as if still on alert. His handler noticed the dog wasn't just satisfied with finding the boy. He seemed to sense there was more to the story. His ears twitched, nose in the air, scanning for something hidden. It was almost as if Rex was telling everyone that the danger hadn't fully passed. And in truth, he was right, because only hours later, the investigation would uncover something even darker connected to the trunk and the missing man. The rescued boy, wrapped in warmth inside the ambulance, finally found enough strength to grip an officer's hand. "A thank you," he whispered, his voice small but filled with genuine gratitude. That simple word shattered the hearts of everyone who heard it. For the officers, it was a reminder of why they chose this job, not for recognition or glory, but for moments like these where saving one life meant changing the world. And for Rex, it was his silent badge of honor, his tail wagging as if to say, "A mission complete." But missions never really end for nines. Even after the boy was safe, Rex kept his nose close to the ground, circling the car as if he was certain more evidence lingered. His persistence pushed investigators to check every inch of the vehicle. To their shock, hidden compartments were discovered beneath the floorboards of the trunk, containing disturbing items, ropes, duct tape, and tools no child should ever be near. The case was no longer just about a rescue. It was about stopping someone dangerous before they struck again. The news spread quickly. Reporters arrived at the scene, their cameras capturing the heroic 9, the shaken but safe boy, and the determined officers. People across the town stayed up late, glued to their screens, watching the story unfold. Parents hugged their children tighter that night, realizing how close tragedy had come to their doorstep. And as headlines filled with Rex's name, the 9 became more than a police dog. He became a symbol of vigilance, courage, and the instinct to protect when it mattered most. At the station later that night, Rex was rewarded with his favorite treat and a new toy. But what he wanted most was the warmth of his handler's arms. The handler stroked his fur gently, whispering, "You saved him, buddy. You saved him when no one else could." Those words carried a weight that only Rex seemed to understand. For all his training, his barking had come from something deeper: loyalty, love, and the unshakable bond between a dog and humanity. The rescued boy was taken into protective custody, where social workers and doctors cared for him. Slowly, he began to share more details about his captor, a shadowy figure with cold eyes who had lured him with false kindness before the nightmare began. The information he provided became critical for detectives, who now had a trail to follow. All the while, Rex remained at his handler's side, ready for whatever came next. His eyes told a story of focus and determination that no words ever could. Days later, when the suspect was finally captured, officers credited Rex's actions for not only saving the boy, but also sparking the investigation that led to the arrest. Without him, the man might have disappeared into the night, free to harm again. The community gathered once more, this time not in fear but in celebration, applauding the four-legged hero who reminded everyone that courage doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it walks on 4 paws. And as you listen to this story of bravery and instinct, remember that heroes come in many forms. If you believe stories like these deserve to be told and shared, make sure to subscribe to stay connected with us. Don't forget to like this story so that more people can witness the unbelievable courage of dogs like Rex, the silent guardians who protect us even when we don't realize we're in danger.